All right, you're listening to the Brown Perspective. This is Eduardo, and I'm here with RO.
What's going on?
Welcome to the 100th episode of the Brown Perspective.
That's right. Yeah. Special day today. Our 100th episode of The Brown Perspective. It's going to be a special one today.
Can you believe it? I can't believe it's been 100 times that we've had the opportunity to get together and have these types of conversations.
We've had more than 100, but some of them just never made it.
That's right. That's for the bloopers and the unedited material that will come out later when there's a movie about our episodes and our journey together.
Yeah, and also some of the recordings we made them like there. I think we did a one for Christmas, and I didn't get a chance to upload it in time. And by the time I was ready with it, it was like 3 weeks after Christmas, so it just didn't make sense to upload it anymore. So
Yes, and speaking of collectible items, we wanted to tackle the issue of NFTs today. Uh, just for the listeners, I think for me, I'm a more of a layman's person on these topics. I understand a little bit about what a NFT is, about the crypto, but I think our friend Herreo is definitely more knowledgeable. So we definitely want to break down what an NFT is, as well as why should we, particularly the Latino community and other marginalized communities, think about getting into the NFT game and some of the other crypto game.
I'll do my best to explain them, but just taking a cue from the other YouTubers that I watch explaining these things. This is not financial advice, right? So we don't want to get in trouble for people making decisions based on this discussion here. But yeah, I
Very
think
true.
there's it's definitely a really interesting thing that's happening in the crypto space right now. With you started out with the cryptocurrencies, and then if you remember the bubble back in 2017 with the initial coin offerings, ICOs, maybe that's something that an acronym that you heard before, maybe not, but I think most people remember that bubble that where Bitcoin went all the way to 20,000, and then it just popped, and then all these other coins also popped as well, losing like 95% of their value. And then sure enough, a
Mm.
few years later, here we are within another cycle, and it just seems like the mania is back. You hear people saying this time is different, and in a sense, it is. NFTs, NFTs actually started back in 2017 with the crypto kitties, and
Crypto kitties.
I back in 2017 I didn't bother to find out what exactly that was. I knew that okay, it's some new way of using the Ethereum blockchain,
Hmm.
and I just didn't really bother to go in there and learn about it. So it was until this time around that it really started making sense what exactly was going on. But I know for a lot of people out there, they see this, and there was even a skit in Saturday Night Live, and I think that's probably what caught your attention as well, right? Because I remember you messaged me after that.
Yes, so I think there's been a lot of it picked up on social media. I know that shows and comedy, yeah, they start making fun of those things that are happening.
And this one right here, by the way, the Beeple, every day is the first 500 days, sold for 69 million in March 2021. And
And when they
this
say it sold for 669 million, is that actual money or is that like cryptocurrency, or do we know what the value is?
69 million worth of Ethereum, because that's likely how this was paid for. And what that means is that the people that are buying these collectibles are also people that are essentially gambling or making a lot of money in the cryptocurrency space. Because this isn't really somebody coming to the table and saying I'm withdrawing 69 million from my private bank account and I'm going to go buy this digital art. No, this is people in the crypto space that have a ton of money just because
Mm.
the bubble is getting reinflated again in the crypto space. And I'm not making a statement on whether or not there's utility and there's use and there's a future for the cryptocurrencies. Some people say that there isn't, others say that there is. Regardless of that, the space is in a bubble. So right now there's a lot of people that have a ton of money, and so you see that they're bidding up these pieces so much so that you have people just looking at this and looking at it and trying to make sense of why is it that somebody would pay so much money.
Yeah, and I think the other one that I know caught a lot of news media was the founder of Twitter. He auctioned off and sold the first tweet. So I think that's one of the reasons that I have hope that we can sell our 100th episode eventually on one of these NFTs.
Yeah, that's right. We'll turn it into an NFT and we'll put it out there. But maybe someday, if our show goes on and continues and we get a bigger following, maybe at some point it'll be worth something. But you know what is you want to get some skin in the game also, because that's the best way that you learn about stuff. So maybe it's good for us just to get in there and try to create an NFT over 100 episode just to be able to talk about it and talk about the experience.
So let's start at the beginning. So Ethereum, is that just part of the coin, or is that like something that, yeah, explain to me. Is that just one of the cryptocurrencies?
Yeah, just think of it as a platform. I think for a lot of
Okay.
people that try to understand what Ethereum is, think of it this way. So you're used to interacting with banks and other private companies like a Facebook, right? And that's totally fine. So Facebook is a platform, and in theory, you could go and sell things on Facebook, and Facebook could slap some certificate of originality on it, so that that's the only one of its kind that exists. Now, the way that they would go about trying to, the mechanism by which they would sell that and allow people to bid on it, it would be completely different. But private companies, I mean, people interact with private companies all the time. But with Ethereum, what you're doing is just it's a platform that happens to be decentralized. So there's no
Hmm.
central entity that you're interacting with. So Ethereum is the platform where all of these different apps get developed and they get deployed on the Ethereum network. So the ability to create these NFTs end up on the Ethereum network. And so as long as somebody connects to the network, as long as the Ethereum network exists, and as long as it survives for the next decade, or it sticks around and it takes off and it's with us, then people have faith that they can go and put up their art so that it can be sold, and then it can be put into the blockchain itself. And the one thing with blockchains is that once something gets into it, it's immutable, so that you can't change it. And so that's really the power of these things, that not only are they decentralized, but they're also immutable. So that's how you get all of this functionality that you can create around that. And by the way, that's, Ethereum is like it's not necessarily an improvement, but Ethereum, most people are familiar with Bitcoin, but
Hmm.
Ethereum really, it takes what Bitcoin did and they build a whole bunch of other use cases on top of it. Whereas with Bitcoin, all you're really doing is you're saying, I'm going to put value into this network, and I trust that the network allows me to send some value from one person to another. And but that's all that Bitcoin does. It just exchanges value, and then the decentralized network verifies it for you, and there's miners and so forth. There's rewards, but Ethereum just takes that idea and builds just an entire different ecosystem on top of it. And these NFTs is one of them. So that once your NFT is in the blockchain network, you know that it's there. You know that because you own it, there's a way to prove that you own it. It's like a certificate of ownership that lives on the Ethereum blockchain. Now we can get into whether or not that actually means that there's any value in that, right? And why people are valuing it at 69 million worth of Ethereum.
Yeah. And then the what you said earlier was that, what makes it non-fungible is that it cannot be changed, right?
Correct. So fungibility means, think of it as just being able to exchange one thing for another.
Hmm.
So uh, whatever, a silver coin, if you exchange that, if you have a silver coin and I have a silver coin and we exchange them, we've essentially exchanged the same value. They're identical. But a non-fungible token is, if I own a piece of work and you own another one, then even if let's say that some artist decided to create an NFT for their artwork, and let's say that it was a limited edition, and that, let's say they only decide to create 10 versions of that NFT, and they'll only ever sell 10, right? So I buy the first one, you buy the second one. They're still non-fungible because mine, it's numbered. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 all the way to 10. So I know that I'm the one that bought the first one, and you
Hmm.
bought the second one. But in reality, I think most people, when they think of NFTs, they think, well, the artist is putting it as an NFT, and that's the only like certificate of authenticity that's going to exist for it. And that's really not the case. Like artists can sell many NFTs of their same artwork, but each one is
Interesting.
unique because there's scarcity to it. As long as they're not selling millions of it, because like this guy right here, Beeple, he decided to put this piece of work as an NFT, and whoever bought it can prove to someone that he or she owns this NFT because they have the certificate, and they can prove that in the Ethereum blockchain. But there's nothing stopping this guy Beeple from creating a million other NFTs, or there's nothing creating this guy Beeple from creating another NFT in a different blockchain, like some other platform that is competing with Ethereum. Like there's like at this point there's hundreds of them, and you could put this NFT on another platform, and so there's nothing stopping them from doing that. But I suppose there's no incentive for them to do it, right? Because if you're Beeple, then what's the incentive to creating so many NFTs for your artwork? They're going to go down in value, and so that's really, it's like the incentives are designed so that the artist doesn't do that, but artists can take advantage of this if they wanted to.
Interesting. And I think going back to part of it is art, and I guess value isn't the art of and the eye of the beholder. So obviously, if you think that this piece is valuable just because of who he is, or the art that it represents, or the fact that it's the first of its kind, and you find that valuable, that's great. But to your earlier point, it's also just we or those individuals within that platform find that the NFTs find this valuable. So as long as there's a group of people who find something valuable, that's really what allows this type of system or network to exist. And I know that it's happened throughout human history that we've had different societies that value different things. Gold. When you had where there was more focus on tools, practicality, oil, and in some ways, the American dollar, it just happens to be the currency that most people believe in, just because it's one of it's the last mega or the superpower, right? So in some ways, there's trust that the U.S. government is gonna be there and gonna be able to provide value to those dollars. In some similar ways, people are beginning to have a little bit of faith that the Ethereum network will be around, and that it will be valuable to have one of these pieces or to get your artwork into the network to be sold.
Yeah, and the craze is definitely around the artwork, but personally, I wouldn't pay much for a piece of art because I don't value it the same way that somebody else might. And by the way, this is, like I said in the beginning, this right here is a hype. This is a bubble. Mm-hmm. Realistically, even if there's value to these NFT artworks, they're not worth 69 million. Like really, whoever bought this piece of art, I don't think they'll be able to sell it for more than that if they ever do. If that's the goal. What I think happened here is that people people with a whole bunch of Bitcoin or at least value based in Bitcoin or Ethereum, they probably bid this so high just because it brings even more exposure to the blockchain itself, to the networks, to cryptocurrencies. So they had something to gain by doing this as well. But I think most people wouldn't have bid so much on this piece of work. But there are other use cases for NFTs that are really interesting, and this is why they captured the attention of the Mark Cuban from Shark Tank and the owner of the Dallas Mavericks, because you could start doing things with NFTs. You could start applying them to something like ticket sales, or even artists that are trying to sell their music directly to fans. You can tie them to NFTs, and then now you can start talking about more benefits that the owner of that NFT can actually get. For example, or even the seller. So the use case that Mark Cuban used for the Dallas Mavericks is you can sell tickets to Mavs games as NFTs. And if those tickets are then resold to somebody else on the Ethereum network, because you can track each one of them. The Dallas Mavericks gets a cut of each sale. So right there, you already see the financial incentive for why companies would want to get into this. Same thing with artists, right? Let's say that you're an artist and you're starting up and you want to see if you can put out your music and release an album as an NFT. What you could actually do is you can say this NFT actually confers some copyrights to whoever buys them. Not full exclusive copyrights, but maybe you could say, if my album sells this much, the owners of the NFTs get this much, like percentage, like 1% of the sales or 0.5%, whatever. So you can start doing really creative, interesting things with these NFTs apart from just holding them as collectibles. So there's definitely value. You haven't seen the last of this. I think that you're going to start see more cases built around it. But it's just, in a way, maybe it's good that there's so much hype and mania around them, because it does bring a lot more people into the space, and then they start realizing, like, wait a minute, we can actually do some other things that are really creative with this. So maybe paying $69 million for this piece of artwork will pay for itself, not for the individual that purchased it, but maybe just for bringing attention into the space.
Interesting. And so as the attention to the space continues to grow, and now it's become more of a mainstream phenomenon, how do you see, or do you think it's important for marginalized communities to try to get into this action? I know that there are already a number of who already aware and invested in cryptocurrency and things like this, but obviously the overwhelming majority are not. I think as a whole, we're just trying to still recover from the 2008 recession, and now this pandemic recession. So what are your thoughts in terms of opportunities for communities of color to actually build wealth or build a position within these types of networks?
Well, I think the opportunity is definitely there, because the use cases are universal. They don't just apply to one group or another. For example, in the Hispanic community, I know here in LA, there's a lot of culture, there's a lot of artwork that gets created, a lot of original artwork. There's all these murals that we create, right? What's to stop some guy from going up and putting up a mural and saying that he's going to turn it into an NFT? Or even cities to start doing that and trying to sell them as NFTs to try to raise some money. There's a huge underground punk rock scene in East LA with Chicanos doing punk rock. There's indie rock. There's so many different artists that if they're tech savvy, and why not, right? So that's the other thing, that these days you don't need to go through an agent, through some company. You can just watch a few tutorials on YouTube on how do I do this and that, and read about it and figure it out. And you can try to take matters into your own hand and start putting your music out there. And if you feel like there's enough following and there's just enough interest, then create the NFTs and tell your fans, I'm selling these NFTs, and it's up to you. There's different companies that you'll go through to sell the NFTs, and they'll give you different options for what kind of like copyrights you want to place on the NFTs. But yeah, I think on an individual level, definitely this is something that our community should be taking advantage of, just to stay up with the technology. I think for the community case collectively, I mean, the only one I can think of is like the murals that are maybe owned by the cities or the districts, but I'm sure there's other use cases that I'm not thinking about right now.
That's true. So it's good that there is a lot of opportunity, and I'm wondering, because yeah, you're right, like Chicano art, and so many other instances where there could be an opportunity for the community to showcase the value within it, but more importantly, kind of also maintain those copyrights and those ownership rights, which are always so important.
I'm surprised that Bad Bunny didn't release an NFT, or did he?
I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if he's maybe getting ready to do so, particularly after the gains of the ticket sales for his concerts in 2022. I'm sorry.
There you go. You need to call him and tell him, hey man, you're dropping the ball. You need to start auctioning NFTs left and right. Right now, while the mania is still alive, there's signs that it's dying down a little bit. I think this was definitely the most expensive piece of art. This page right here has the top 10.
Hmm.
This one's another one from Beeple for just 6.6 million. So you can see already a drastic change between 69 million and 6.6. And then this one sold for 1 million. I think number 10, it's for a few thousand, maybe half a million, 550,000. So I think it'll quiet down for a bit. But like I said, there's a lot of use cases around NFTs, and so you haven't heard the last of them. So I always encourage people to you go out there and learn about these things.
Hmm.
Blockchain, crypto, it doesn't look like they're going away. They're here to stay. They are changing everything from finance to now art to music. So it's just more and more each day. There's just more brain power going towards this sector. So you can expect a lot more innovation as well, a lot more manias as well too. So I mean, again, this isn't financial advice. I wouldn't advise people to start going into this and putting money that where they may lose. I mean, if you're going to go into the cryptos or the NFTs or anything else, don't kid yourself. Right now, this phase of in that space, it's mainly speculative. It's mainly gambling. Now, if you
Hmm.
think, though, that this space has a future, that it'll be around for the next 10, 20 years, and you just want to invest long term, then that's better. But yeah, just be aware that invest at your own risk. There's just a lot of speculation. I mean, what Dogecoin is like 35 cents right now.
Yeah, and apparently you think it's gonna get to $1?
It might, just because greed might
Mm.
drive it to $1. But the problem is that you know for sure that whoever ends up buying at the top, they're the ones that are going to end up losing the most, right?
Yeah.
And you can't tell if they'll be able to push it up to $1, to $2, to $5. I mean, I think at $2 or $3, you start already talking about it dethroning Bitcoin from like its market cap being worth more than a trillion. So I don't know. I don't think it'll get that far up. I think the people that are holding it will sell before that, and then you'll see a huge correction. And yeah, the crypto space itself is in another bubble again. So the other thing to remember is that all of these cryptocurrencies, they just follow Bitcoin. So Dogecoin on its own, even Ethereum on its own, they don't really move independent of Bitcoin. So where Bitcoin goes, all these other cryptocurrencies go. And when Bitcoin goes up in price a bit, the other coins may go up more. But that means that if Bitcoin drops back to 30 or 20 or 10, you can expect all these other cryptocurrencies to drop 90 or 95% again. So it's a huge risk. Just it's a lot of gambling.
Got it. No, and I know we're at the end of our conversation here, and I think as to close, I think for me, appreciating your call to just become familiar with it. I think one of the challenges for me personally is that it's kind of hard to keep up, right? You have the Bitcoin, now you have the NFTs. So in some ways, I can see how someone may be just, you know what, this is too much new stuff to learn. Why am I going to learn? But I think from your message is like it's important to at least know enough about what's happening, learn about the Bitcoin, learn about this NFTs and the other uh, uses that you have, so at least you understand and can, to your point, not be left behind and be able to say, okay, this is, while this perhaps this may not be it, at least I understand where the what the trend is, and perhaps eventually there will be a change that will happen that I maybe I don't completely understand, but that at least I'll be have been able to track and see, okay, it looks like this is where we're headed. I need to learn more. I need to be aware of this space because eventually it will impact other, I guess, other aspects of life, right? So
Yep.
it's certainly something of interesting phenomenon to see and understand and see how they evolve.
And we'll definitely keep following this space. Next time we talk about this, either Dogecoin is back to half a cent or it's up to $1. So
That's true. Cool. Any additional thoughts before we close up conversation today?
no, that's it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for listening to us today, particularly the 100th episode. I hope you found this information helpful and interesting, as well as some of the other conversations that we've had the past few, I guess, year or so
Yeah,
now,
it's a
a
bit over a year.
little bit over a year. So Thank you again for listening to The Brown Perspective. Follow us on YouTube, on Instagram, Twitter, and hope you tune in to the next conversation. Nos vemos.
Nos vemos.